What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be taking a look over here at the Bitcoin price chart as we concluded last week with quite a bit of green action, and Bitcoin starts the week at $63,800. But of course, the bigger thing on the table is what's going on in regards to cycle theory, how far along we are since the hype and the euphoria of 2021 has worn off. Here we are in 2024 as we approach the equivalent amount of time of how long it took us from 2014 to 2017 for Bitcoin to be able to scoot its way out of there and for the whole altcoin market to go roaring. And we saw action here in crypto. You've unquestionably seen this many times. The last time we actually reached a significant moment in all of this price action was back in here in October. Zooming in on when our peaks had come in, our additional peaks, and then our peaks right before capitulation. The timing of these had all been really identical. Then spending a long period in a range on both of these for them only to break out of their ranges at the exact same time. We went into a 200-day range. We approached the end of it. As we got here near the end, the tweet was, the parallels between now and 2014 through 2016 have been amazing on the Bitcoin chart. Each major milestone for Bitcoin in 2021 through 2023 has had shockingly accurate timing with 2014 through 2016. Today marks one of those days of will it continue? In 2016, the range finally escaped right here. It's back on October 11th. Which is where this dotted line is placed. As you can see, in the coming days, by the 16th, we'd started breaking, and then off and away we went through October. If you can't recall, October, that's when breadth opened up in the market. That's where coins started to rally. That marks the moment where Solana starts to go on for its big rally back to its retracement. And really looking throughout the whole crypto market, that's where a lot of the action all starts at, right there in October, as that range escape finally happens after 200 days. Just as it did back in 2014 through 2016. We haven't had a significant moment like this in the whole thing since really that moment. There's been so many moments in time where this thing has been right on point, and the last time we had a moment like that was back in October until now. I'll shift us over here to CoinTrader Pro because we're not going to be missing any bars on the chart like we are on TradingView, which I discussed last week. But you can see over here with the yellow oval, the arrow, and the dotted line, that's where we are today. You can see all the phases that have happened in here to get us to the point that we're at right now. This is back in October when the 200-day range escapes. There you are now. One thing we also talked about when that volatility spike hit over there in broader markets, that also happens to align with a 33% drawdown, which is what we actually ended up seeing back then in 2017. So as we reach right here, the next week or two, marking another one of those things of will it continue? It has for over 1,200 days, and now comes the fingernail biting of whether it will. This, of course, likely stems from the Russell 2000 being able to do so. Because, like we showed everything happening over there in October, well, guess when the Russell reverses in here? Late October. That's where it's able to rise back up and finally escape this range that it was stuck in since April of 2022. What happened in April of 2022? Bitcoin started its capitulation. But we've seen some interesting price action happen right now in the range that we're in, where the Russell is fighting against the upper bounds of these retracement levels currently before market even opens here on Monday. So there's a hope and a dream alive to at least not see us get rejected by any of these. Of course, it doesn't mean it can't just waddle around and hang out in here for some time. But what you don't want to see, of course, is you just get back in here and then slam. Like we saw with the altcoin market, you reach it, it's an extreme selling point, and boom, the market rejects it aggressively. The actual retracement level in itself has not proven that it is the rejection level right now. Again, could waddle, but what we didn't have is getting back to it and then blast. Getting back to it, crumble. Back to it, game over. As we saw here in the crypto market back in March of this year. Again, just because we've gotten through some of them doesn't necessarily mean escape right now. We can look even at Bitcoin. Still looks like it could be a week of volatility if this thing continues, even in here, a trip back down to $61,000 some point this week would not be inconsistent. It also wouldn't be inconsistent in a recovery like this to still have to come back and close out these gaps in the 61s. And it wouldn't be inconsistent for the Russell to have to close some gaps and waddle in here to attempt to try to do something as well. But as we sit here fingernail biting, and if we're even going to look at it through this context of what happened as the Russell was breaking out, then Bitcoin follows behind and goes roaring off in 2017, there's one element that was going on here in the market that in order to be consistent with this, you would think we would start seeing reactions of it at some point this week and really in the next couple of days. As we've shown from back in then, when Bitcoin broke into its new all-time high in 2017, prior to that occurring, there are actually signs already showing up in the market ahead of time. We've shown examples of XRP and Litecoin that these long ranges had taken place, but there was something that started to get moving in the market ahead of time. We can throw on other coins that were popular back then, such as Dash, Ethereum, Monero, Ethereum Classic, and New Economy Movement, which you could see here when we look at the Wayback Machine or archive.org, what were the top coins back then. And what we can see is some price behavior starting to happen, at least in a couple of them prior to Bitcoin getting into escape. And looking back on that time, like we talked about in the video last week on things like Litecoin, based on our capitulation date of this market back in June of 2022, and the bottom coming in here, that equivalent date of waking up is tomorrow, August 27th. Now, will it do it? I don't know. But that's how big of a time it is right now when it comes to cycle theory and longest time periods in a drawdown or in a bear, is that when this all played out after the completion of a super cycle and the correction after a super cycle, once expansion took place, there were some early signs, and those signs came from various altcoins. It didn't come from every altcoin. It came from various ones that something was waking up in the market. And that amount of time triggers tomorrow. Now, if we get through tomorrow and nothing happens, does that mean that's it? Sell your whole bags? No, it just then becomes it's the longest ever. But if it does wake up tomorrow, well, then forget what you think you know about the entire universe, because none of it matters. You live in a simulation, especially if the Russell breaks out at the same time. But for reference on that as well, on how that day woke up for Litecoin there, that was also the same time that XRP woke up back in 2017 as well. So for all those looking for the flip of the switch, happened on multiple assets at the same time. It's typically not isolated to one asset. It's multiple assets. And I don't know whether it'll be Litecoin or not. I don't know if Litecoin's glory days have already passed it by, but we can use these references on looking at it through this lens and looking through these lenses to say, this is how long it took. And then you say, well, if this is how long it took, was the context similar to what was happening to Bitcoin? And that's where we were. And then you got to look to the context and say, well, is macro markets giving that signal? And not yet. The dollar has obviously been in a strong fall for the last several weeks, but this isn't giving us a lead yet, but we'll see what tomorrow can bring. But if we're going to look at it through this lens, and if we're going to look at it through this lens, these are things that we call confluence, right? Where we're trying to stack multiple things on top of themselves to give a stronger argument to what we're looking at. And so that's when we also move over there to the safety trade dominance at the same time to say, hey, look, we've done really this exact same thing before. And ultimately, it led to that expansion when the safety trade dominance was doing the same thing. It led to the glorious moment like here in 2020 and 2021. As I showed last week with some of these altcoins, certainly similar structures we've seen before, evidenced of how we didn't go into expansion in March, but instead we're retracing like Matic versus the altcoin market of 2019 through 2021. However, this is how markings came to a conclusion in here, including with massive volatility spikes in macro markets to hit those lows like we did back in 2020 and here in 2024. So as we finally approach the end of August, as we finally approach the longest points in history, as mentioned last week, with all the setups in crypto, they all look fantastic. The eyes will be peeled over here on the Russell to get through not only this range, which is the rejection that started right back here on July 31st, but of course, to get through the bigger range, which was that final retracement level right there. And if we get through there, then we no longer have to sit here and talk about this anymore. we'll have all things occurring all at the same time. And again, that big thing of Confluence, that you've got expansions happening, you've got breadth opening wide up, we've got our setups, we'd have prices moving, dominance is starting to fall, all of these things happening all at the same time. It would just be the triggering moment, the snap of the fingers to be like, boom, it's all happening. And we're all just kind of on the edge of our seat this week as we get into that, because we know this week starts to kind of mark that time frame of where if the simulation is going to trigger itself, this seems like the week it would do it. If this thing is going to expand, we should start seeing some signals throughout the market. Tron has been one. It not only closed through all the retracement levels of 2021 through 2024, but it had its highest weekly close in 6.5 years. And this is absolutely excellent to see. However, my expectations are much bigger than that for a signal to show up, to get at least a handful more of them and some bigger percentages. And that's what we're looking for this week if this market and if this Russell are to expand. So huge week ahead. Certainly feels like we're reaching these make or break levels. It's exciting and nervous at the same time. Like I mentioned in last week's videos, when you look throughout all of crypto, everything just looks positive for crypto. We just know this is our deciding factor, as it has been the deciding factor for every single expansion and bull run and bear market of the cryptocurrency market. So stay tuned this week. We'll be looking for multiple reoccurring signals. Hopefully they're all positive. If we see bad things show up, we'll try to catch it as fast as possible. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully it's all positive, and fingers crossed we can operate right on schedule and something wakes up tomorrow. But on that note, guys, we'll go ahead and start wrapping this thing up. Of course, you guys can check out the newsletter over here on blockchainbacker.substack.com. Over 40 newsletters. I voice record all of them. Most recent one's about 24 minutes long. Of course, you can check out bcbacker.com for over 40 videos and 11 hours of content teaching you how to set up your own charts and indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro. There are links down here in the description of this video to bcbacker.com and to the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Otherwise, all eyes on the market, all eyes on the Russell, all eyes on things being able to wake up. So we'll check on it again tomorrow. Otherwise, I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and I hope you have a great week. But that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.